I'm Anna Clark. I'm 26 years old. Last week, my whole world turned upside down during a family dinner. My entire life, I've been invisible in my house. I'm the quiet, pretty daughter who never gets complimented. I've always been overshadowed by my brother, the amazing gamer they all adore. They bought him cars and game consoles. They praised him in ways they never praised me. I disappeared into the background. But that Saturday night, they went too far. We sat around the table. The air felt thick with things nobody was saying. My mom stared at me hard. She put down her fork and said, like she was accusing me of something, "Give up that room or you're out of this family." I froze. That room was my safe place from childhood. It's where I drew pictures late at night and taped my dreams on the walls. They wanted to take it away from me. Before I could answer, my dad shifted in his chair. His face looked tense. My sister smiled meanly, leaning back like she had already won. My brother watched with that smug look, certain I would give in. The room became silent. I could have exploded. I could have listed every time they ignored me, every choice that favored him. But I didn't. I stood up. I pushed my chair back so the scraping sound echoed. I walked out without looking back. They had no idea what was about to happen. They still thought they could control me. But I had a plan, something that would make their world fall apart. And now every morning they wake up to the results. If you were in that moment, would you walk away or stand your ground and fight? Share your choice in the comments. I want to know how you'd handle the shock. I grew up in a quiet suburb of Chicago in the 1990s. It was the kind of middle-class neighborhood that looked perfect from the outside. Two-story houses lined up, neatly trimmed lawns, kids riding bikes until the street lights came on. On the surface, we were that normal family. My mother, Barbara, worked at a bank. She was always busy, but never too busy to spoil my little brother, Gregory, the so-called gaming genius of the family. She'd come home with shopping bags full of electronics. Her face would glow. "Got you a new controller, Greg," she'd say like it was Christmas morning. My older sister, Andrea, who was just a year older than me, chipped in with her allowance. Headsets, keyboards, fancy LED mice. Anything to make Gregory's gaming corner look professional. To them, he wasn't just a kid who liked video games. He was destined for greatness. My dad, Kevin, was a high school history teacher. He was the quiet one, gentle, patient, a man of few words. He was the only person who noticed that I liked computers. He saw that I could spend hours buried in library books about programming. He encouraged me in small, silent ways. He'd slip me handwritten notes that said things like, "Try building your own calculator app." But in our house, Mom's voice carried the most weight. She never hid her opinions. "That computer stuff won't get you anywhere," she'd say with disgust. "Why not do something useful like your brother?" Andrea would laugh and pile on, calling me the family nerd like it was an inside joke. Dad tried to defend me a few times, but one look from Mom and he'd go silent again. Gregory soaked up all the attention. He'd stand in front of the mirror practicing his victory poses, pretending to be a professional video game player on TV. Mom signed him up for local tournaments and drove him across town on weekends. Andrea always went along, cheering from the back seat. They'd come home with medals, cheap plastic trophies, or at least a few dramatic stories about almost winning. I still remember the day Gregory won second place at a city competition. We had pizza and cake, the whole celebration. Everyone was laughing and clinking soda cans while I sat in the corner drawing flowcharts in my notebook, pretending not to hear my mother proudly retelling Gregory's amazing comeback to a neighbor. I was different. I always had been. Since I was 10, I'd been obsessed with programming. Every week, I checked out stacks of library books, teaching myself loops and logic. I found a sense of order I never found at home. To me, code made sense. People didn't. Mom called it boring. Andrea hid my books for fun. Only Dad understood. He'd quietly return them to my desk and say, "Knowledge is power." But in our house, his words were whispers against a wall of favoritism. When I was 13, I got a weekend job at the corner grocery store. I scanned items and bagged groceries. I saved every dollar in a glass jar under my bed. I dreamed of buying a used laptop so I could really learn to code. After months, I'd finally saved $500. Then one afternoon, Gregory burst through the door, excited about an online gaming tournament. But he needed a new graphics card. Before I could react, Mom had already found my jar. She took every last bill without hesitation. "This is for the family's pride," she said, as if it were a noble cause. Andrea agreed instantly. Dad, for once, spoke up. His voice was shaking. "That's her money, Barbara." But Mom just glared. Gregory's future matters more. And that was that. That evening, they all gathered around the glowing computer screen while Gregory installed his new card. His face lit up in shades of blue and victory. I stood there for a moment, silent, motionless, watching the dream I'd built crumble. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just turned away, went to my room, opened a borrowed basic programming book, and started typing my first real lines of code on our family's old desktop when no one was looking. In that moment, something inside me changed. Being stripped of what was mine didn't break me. It hardened me. It lit a quiet fire. That night, Dad came to my room. He sat beside me and said softly, "I believe in you." But his words sounded small, almost fragile, drowned out by years of silence. After that, I stopped waiting for approval. I buried myself in studying. Loops, variables, algorithms. I turned anger into momentum. While my family filled the house with cheers for Gregory's every match, my world shrank to the soft glow of the computer screen. It was just me, the keyboard, and the endless hum of code that promised a future they couldn't possibly imagine. On weekends, instead of joining them at tournaments, I rode my bike to the library alone. Quiet, but for the first time, completely free. After graduating high school in the early 2000s, I carried with me a quiet determination. Something born from old wounds and a deep need to prove myself as I stepped into a new chapter of my life. I applied for scholarships everywhere. I filled out endless forms for financial aid and wrote personal essays about creativity and determination. In every essay, I shared my story of teaching myself, how technology skills could turn an idea into something real. And it worked. I won a full scholarship to a public university in Chicago, known for its strong tech program. It was close enough for a daily commute, yet far enough for me to finally breathe a little freedom. From the very first semester, I threw myself into computer science classes, object-oriented programming to database management. I kept an almost perfect grade point average, often staying in the library until the staff turned off the lights. I was determined to solve problems that felt just beyond my reach. My dad, Kevin, heard about my grades through the school's email updates. Whenever I came home, he'd slip a small note under my bedroom door. A few handwritten words of pride. Quiet, but warm. It was his way of saying, "I see you." On weekends, I worked part-time at a small tech consulting firm in the Loop, Chicago's financial district. I started at the bottom, entering client data, checking spreadsheets, and making sure every number lined up. The pay wasn't much, but the experience was priceless. I watched senior developers build software solutions for companies. One kind developer taught me how to write faster, more efficient data queries during our lunch breaks. Those lessons stuck with me. I learned how to make loops better, how to make a program run faster. Tricks I immediately used on my personal projects. Back in my tiny rented room, I turned the space into my own little lab. Using free resources like MIT OpenCourseWare videos, I taught myself everything from software engineering techniques to user interface design. Night after night, under the yellow glow of my desk lamp, I typed out line after line of code, slowly piecing together my first test version. A productivity app that organized tasks and flagged overdue ones. At first, it was just a simple script. But over time, I added drag and drop functions and edit options. I tested it endlessly on my old wheezing laptop until it finally ran smooth and clean. Barbara and Andrea hadn't changed much during the few family gatherings we still had. They'd sigh every time I mentioned tech. "What's the point of staring at a screen all day? Why not do something fun like Gregory's channel?" my mom would say, her voice heavy with disappointment. Andrea would add, "What you're doing just makes you more isolated." My dad once spoke softly, "Anna's doing what she's meant to do." But as always, his words were brushed aside as the conversation drifted elsewhere. By junior year, I was taking an algorithms class when I got paired with a student named Kevin Murphy for a project analyzing sorting performance. We clicked right away, spending long nights debating binary search trees and data optimization. He was obsessed with new programming frameworks, often sharing articles about agile methodology. Our conversations left me more inspired than ever. From classmates, we became friends, and soon something more. Late-night taco runs after class. Sitting side by side in the student lounge, laughing over lines of code that refused to work. During tough exams or complex projects, when I started doubting myself, he'd look at me and say, "Your idea really has potential. You just need to trust the process." It wasn't just encouragement. It was belief. Real belief. The kind I'd always longed for. And that belief gave me the strength to keep going. To push my app further than I ever thought possible, integrating databases, expanding its reach, turning a simple experiment into something that finally felt like mine. By my mid-20s, living quietly in the same house, I transformed that test version into a full business app designed to streamline inventory for small businesses. From my cramped room, using a battered laptop with a flickering screen, I coded tirelessly, adding features like real-time stock tracking, automated reorder alerts, and a dashboard for sales analytics. I launched it on a tight budget, hosting it on a cheap cloud server from a local provider and marketing through free social media groups for Chicago business owners. The app gained traction slowly. Its clean interface and reliable performance saved users from running out of stock or ordering too much. Practical solutions that small businesses craved. My first clients were neighbors, a couple running a corner deli and a florist 2 streets over. I met them at a cozy coffee shop in the suburbs, setting my laptop on a wobbly table to show them how the app tracked their supplies and sent alerts for low inventory. They signed up immediately, impressed by how it simplified their daily work. Word spread through their networks. Other shop owners, from a hardware store to a craft boutique, reached out. I'd carry my laptop to their back offices or meet at cafes, showing them how to use the app's features. Subscriptions grew from a dozen to hundreds, then thousands as businesses across Chicago suburbs started using it. Revenue climbed into the millions, flowing into my bank account through monthly subscription plans that users eagerly renewed. Each payment was a quiet proof that my work mattered. I kept my life deliberately simple. I drove a beat-up sedan from high school that rattled at stoplights. I stuck to worn jeans and faded hoodies. I didn't show off the success. No flashy posts online. No big purchases. I just saved the earnings for a bigger vision. A life free from the house's constant judgment. My family had no idea. They saw my scuffed shoes and assumed I was barely getting by. A background character in their story? At our weekly family dinners, the spotlight stayed glued to Gregory. He'd lean forward, phone in hand, boasting about his streaming channel's latest follower spike. 10,000 new subscribers in a month, he'd claim, eyes gleaming. Barbara would gush, praising his charm and predicting he'd land a deal with a major gaming brand soon. Andrea piled on, marveling at his latest viral clip where he beat a rival in a heated match or his fan meetups downtown. Kevin would glance at me across the table. His eyes carried a quiet sympathy that saw the unfairness but never challenged it out loud. If I tried mentioning a new app feature or a client win, Barbara would nod without really listening. Andrea would steer the talk back to Gregory's next tournament, or his need for a better microphone. My words faded into their chatter. One evening, after a tough week fixing a syncing issue that crashed the app for a few users, doubt hit hard. Maybe my work wasn't making the difference I believed. Kevin Murphy came over, sensing my mood. As we sat cross-legged on my bedroom floor with our laptops open, he pulled up user reviews pointing to a message from a bookstore owner who said the app saved her from a costly overstock mistake. "You're changing how people run their businesses, Anna," he said, his voice steady. "This is real impact. Don't let it slip away." His words reignited my drive. That night, I overhauled the app's reporting system, adding a customizable export tool based on user suggestions, and pushed an update that sparked a wave of grateful emails from clients. That moment solidified my purpose, pushing me to keep building, to keep proving my worth not to them, but to myself. That Saturday dinner last week, the air in our dining room crackled with an unspoken weight, heavier than any meal we'd shared before. Plates of roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, and green beans sat cooling on the table. The clink of silverware was sharp against a strained silence. Barbara sat stiff, Her hands were clasped tightly. Her jaw was set in a way that signaled she was gearing up for something huge. Kevin, at the head of the table, fidgeted with his napkin. His brow was creased with worry. His eyes darted between us as if he sensed a storm coming. I gripped my fork. My pulse quickened. I braced for whatever she was about to unleash. Halfway through the meal, Barbara set her fork down with a deliberate clatter. The sound sliced through the quiet. Her eyes locked onto mine, cold and unyielding. "Gregory needs your room for his gaming studio," she announced. Her voice was flat but carried an edge of finality. "You'll move to the basement so he can set up his streaming gear." The words hit like a physical punch. That room was my safe place, where dual monitors cast a soft glow late into the night, where every cable and sticky note held pieces of a future I'd built against their indifference. My desk, cluttered with sketches of app interfaces, was my one space of control in a house that never saw me. I opened my mouth to protest, but Barbara leaned forward. Her tone hardened. "If you refuse, you're choosing to walk away from this family forever." The threat landed like a sharp blade, stripping away any illusion of fairness. Andrea smirked. Her eyes glinted with cruel satisfaction, as if my loss was her victory. Gregory leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. His face radiated the smug certainty that I'd give in, just as I always had. Kevin cleared his throat. His voice was shaky. "Maybe we should talk this through," he offered. His hands twisted the napkin, but Barbara's glare silenced him. "This is decided," she snapped. Her words were final. Andrea piled on. Her voice dripped with mockery. "Your tech job's just typing. Gregory's career actually needs space." The room seemed to shrink. Their voices echoed decades of dismissal. My savings taken. My passions ridiculed. My existence reduced to a shadow of his spotlight. I could have unleashed it all, shouted about every time they'd chosen him over me, every moment they'd made me feel invisible. But words wouldn't change their minds. They'd only dig in deeper. A cold clarity washed over me instead. I saw Barbara's unyielding stare, Andrea's taunting grin, Gregory's entitled ease, Kevin's feeble attempt at stepping in. And I knew I was done bending to their demands. This wasn't just about a room. It was about every choice that had buried me. I pushed my chair back. The legs scraped harshly against the hardwood, a sound that cut through their smug chatter like a blade. Without a word, I stood. My movements were deliberate. My heart pounded with a mix of anger and determination. I walked out. My footsteps echoed in the hallway, leaving their stunned faces behind. Kevin's eyes followed me, wide with worry, but he stayed silent, stuck in his seat. As I crossed the doorway, memories flooded in. Years of being overlooked. Of building my world in secret. Of proving myself despite them. Walking away wasn't defeat. It was the first step in a plan I'd been forming for years. They thought they could control me, dictate my place, but I'd built something they couldn't touch. This was no surrender. It was the opening move in a strategy that would unravel their world. A reckoning they'd face every day without ever seeing it coming. The next day after dinner, I woke with a fire in my chest, Barbara's threat still burning in my mind. I called Taylor Rivera, a real estate agent I'd researched months earlier. After quietly browsing listings online, I'd found a modern 2-story house directly across the street. Clean lines, wide windows, a small porch perfect for morning coffee. Positioned to be an unmissable presence. Over a quick call, I finalized the purchase, wiring funds to buy it outright in cash. A move made possible by years of savings from my app's steady revenue. Taylor, efficient and unfazed, confirmed the paperwork would be signed by Monday, noting how rare such a swift all-cash deal was in Chicago's market. That Sunday morning, I sent a short text inviting the family for coffee at their house, keeping my tone neutral to hide my plan. They gathered in the living room, the same worn space where I'd been dismissed for years, holding mugs as sunlight filtered through faded curtains. Barbara didn't wait long. Her voice was sharp as she set her coffee down. "Have you decided about the room yet?" She pressed, expecting me to fold. I stood, meeting her stare with calm certainty. "I'm moving out," I said, pausing to let the words sink in. "To the house across the street?" Their reactions were instant. Barbara's mug froze midair. Andrea's jaw clenched. Gregory's eyes widened in rare uncertainty. I slid the deed across the coffee table. The paper was crisp, stamped with official seals. "My startup's been making millions," I said. My voice was unwavering. I built an app that helps small businesses manage inventory, and it paid for that house in full. To seal it, I called John Diaz, a coworker who'd handled the app's server scaling, on speakerphone. His voice cut through the room, detailing how my company's subscriptions had grown to thousands of clients across the Midwest, and how I'd closed the deal in days. The silence that followed was deafening. Their disbelief was a tangible weight. Barbara stammered. Her hands trembled. How could you afford this? Why keep it a secret? Her confusion bordered on accusation. Andrea scoffed, arms crossed tightly. No way you pulled this off alone, she muttered. Her tone was thick with doubt. Gregory's face went pale. His usual swagger was gone, as if sensing his spotlight flicker. Kevin's eyes softened. A faint smile formed. I knew you could do it, he said quietly. His pride was real but overdue. I didn't waver. Their reactions no longer held power over me. I built this from nothing, I said. My words were sharp and deliberate. I helped businesses grow while you looked past me, and I never needed to boast. Now I'm moving out, but you'll see my house every day. A reminder of what I did without your support. Barbara's face crumpled. Her voice faltered as she tried to respond. Andrea's scowl deepened. Her disbelief turned to resentment. Gregory shifted, staring at the floor. His confidence was shattered. Kevin stepped forward. His tone was pleading. Can't we stay a family? He asked, but I shook my head firm. You chose your priorities, I said. My voice was steady. I've chosen mine. I turned and walked out, leaving the deed on the table. Their stunned silence echoed behind me. The house across the street wasn't just a purchase. It was my independence, a bold marker of everything I'd built alone. They'd underestimated me for years, but now they'd face that truth every morning, staring at a home they couldn't claim or diminish. A testament to my strength they'd never anticipated. A few weeks later, from my new porch, I watched my family's world collapse with a strange blend of detachment and sharp clarity. Gregory had plunged into online betting through gaming apps, spurred on by Alexandra Walker, a bold streamer he'd met at a live tournament. Their reckless bets, chasing big wins on virtual matches, piled up debts in the hundreds of thousands, dwarfing his sponsorship earnings. Their shared obsession with high-stakes gaming apps bled his accounts dry, leaving nothing but empty promises of quick riches. The scandal erupted when a rival gamer leaked their betting logs on social platforms. Screenshots of Gregory and Alexandra's losses spread rapidly, shared across forums and gaming chats. Overnight, his follower count plummeted. Tens of thousands unfollowed, turned off by his tarnished image. Major sponsors, including a sports drink brand he'd promoted for months, dropped him, saying he violated their values. Alexandra, furious at the public backlash, blamed Gregory in a fiery live stream, accusing him of dragging her into the bets. Her breakup announcement, raw and unfiltered, went viral, drawing thousands of critical comments. She left him stranded. Her departure was final as she cut ties in front of her audience. Barbara, desperate to salvage their finances, put their house up for sale, accepting a low offer to cover a fraction of Gregory's debts. The sale wasn't enough. She emptied her savings, scraping together every dollar to settle with relentless creditors, leaving their accounts bare. Kevin, worn down by the scandal's ripple effects, faced whispers at his high school about his son's recklessness. The pressure overwhelmed him. He lost his teaching job after missing too many days. His reputation was stained by the family's public fall. Their once stable suburban life unraveled, reduced to a shadow of its former pride. They relocated to a cramped one-bedroom apartment on Chicago's outskirts, its walls marked with peeling paint and the hum of a noisy heater. Barbara, demoted at the bank for missing shifts during the crisis, worked grueling hours for a lower salary. Her face was etched with exhaustion. Gregory, now jobless, drifted through the apartment. His once cocky manner was replaced by a vacant stare. Regret seeped into his slumped posture. Their furniture was sparse. 2 wobbly folding chairs, a sagging couch from a thrift store, and a small TV flickering with static. A stark contrast to their old 2-story home. From my porch, I observed their decline unfold. One humid afternoon, I saw Gregory and Alexandra on their old lawn. Their voices were sharp in a heated exchange. She jabbed a finger at him, then stormed off. Her suitcase rattled down the sidewalk. Their split was sealed in a cloud of mutual blame. Barbara hauled boxes to their dented car. Her movements were frantic, Andrea followed, her face twisted in a bitter scowl. Gregory lingered by the door, head bowed, a ghost of his former self. Kevin glanced my way once. His eyes carried a mix of defeat and quiet admiration, but no words passed between us. I didn't revel in their hardship or step in to help. Their collapse wasn't my creation, but it was their reckoning. Years of pushing me aside, pouring everything into Gregory, had led them to this empty life. My app thrived. New clients joined daily. My house was a sleek testament to my independence. From my porch, their struggle was a constant scene. A reminder that my path, built alone, had led to a freedom they'd never grasp. Months after the move, I settled into my new home, its airy rooms bathed in morning light, the soft hum of my work filling the space. Coding new app features, answering client emails, managing server updates. Each day, I stepped onto my porch, coffee in hand, and waved at the new owners of my family's old house across the street. Their kids chased a soccer ball in the yard where I'd once felt unseen. Their laughter was a sharp contrast to the silence I'd endured. The wave wasn't for them, but a deliberate signal to Barbara, Andrea, and Gregory. A daily reminder that I'd built a life beyond their grasp, thriving in the shadow of their collapse. My family's attempts to reconnect felt hollow, each one tinged with their own agendas. Barbara left a voicemail one chilly evening. Her voice was oddly soft, urging family unity and a fresh start together. The words rang empty after decades of her favoritism, and I deleted the message without a second listen. Andrea sent a late-night text. Her tone was falsely casual, asking for a small loan to fund her vague new venture. No hint of remorse for her past mockery. I ignored it. Her greed was as blatant as her old smirks. Gregory remained silent. His guilt was a heavy absence, his once loud presence reduced to a ghost of regret. Kevin appeared at my doorstep one crisp afternoon. His face was lined with fatigue, but his eyes were warm. "I'm so proud of you, Anna," he said. His voice broke slightly. "But they're struggling. Could you help just a little?" I looked at the man who'd once slipped me quiet notes of encouragement, and a flicker of sadness stirred. Yet his support, though kind, couldn't undo the years he'd stayed quiet. "I can't," I said. My voice was steady. I closed the door with a soft click. I cut off all ties. No calls answered. No text returned. No forgiveness granted. Even Kevin, despite his small gestures, was part of a family that had pushed me aside too long. I owed them nothing. My path forged through solitary determination. My focus shifted fully to the life I'd built, one rooted in my own strength. To celebrate this chapter, I threw a housewarming party, enlisting Kevin Murphy and John Diaz to help transform my home. They hung fairy lights across the living room's high ceilings, arranged tables with platters of sandwiches and pastries, and greeted guests. Local business owners who used my app, neighbors who'd become friends, coworkers who'd watched my startup soar. The house pulsed with life, music mingling with the clink of glasses and warm chatter. A florist client shared how my app prevented a costly overstock error. Her gratitude was genuine. Kevin Murphy raised a glass. His grin was wide. "To Anna, who turned vision into reality," he said, and the room erupted in cheers. Their voices drowned out memories of my family's cold silences. John Diaz laughed, recounting our late-night coding marathons. His joke about my stubborn debugging sparked ripples of laughter. Reflecting on it all, the lesson was clear, carved into every moment of this journey. Self-reliance was my greatest asset, a fire kindled in years of being overlooked. Their bias toward Gregory had led to their ruin. Financially broken, socially shamed. While my world grew stronger, my worth came from my work, my persistence, not their fleeting approval. Every line of code every client gained proved it. From my new home, I felt a quiet power, not in their fall, but in my rise. For anyone else dismissed or underestimated, my path was a testament. Your value lies in what you create, not in what others see. Build relentlessly. Let your work speak loudly and leave their doubts behind.